Good evening. I'm going to call the meeting to order and declare a quorum. I think we're all accounted for. And please join me for the pledge. Everyone get up at the same time. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Thank you. Upcoming meetings, we're going into our holiday season here with diminishing meetings until the new year. We do have some committees, December 11th, personnel at 5:30 and finance at 6:30. Those will be in the high school library. Just a note, this is a change from our usual central office. So anyone who's interested in attending those meetings, we will be at the high school library and that will be moving forward. All right, next up, action relative to additions or adjustments to the agenda. Anyone have any to offer? Great. And comments from the audience? No? All right, we'll hear from you in a minute, I think. Minutes. Do you want to do?
Sure. I move we accept the printed minutes of November 6th, 2024 regular business meeting.
Second.
Anyone find anything that needs to be adjusted in the review of those? No? Okay. All in favor? All right.
I move that we accept the printed minutes of November 20th, 2024 regular business meeting.
Second.
Anything on those? All in favor? Okay.
I abstain.
Abstain?
I wasn't there.
Okay, so we're just supposed to do a better job for Maggie. Did you catch that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right, and recognition.
Do you want to take it out of order?
We can.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. So first up, we have a couple of exciting Gray New Gloucester adult education. Stephanie is here. I asked her to join us for a few minutes so we could brag about her. At their recent meeting, Gray New Gloucester Adult Education was recognized as one of 8 programs in the state that were considered top performers. To be considered a top performer, you have to exceed the state's benchmarks in 4 areas, one of which is participation in, one is the number of students that you have participating in the NRS system, which is defined as like specifically people that are participating in adult education program that includes some kind of standardized assessment, so things like HiSET, some of our credentialing programs. And so the benchmark was an increase of 10%. We increased 18% from last year to between the 2 years. The second area is around skill gain, so that gets back to those standardized tests. How much of an increase did we see? The benchmark was 39% and we achieved 78%. Stephanie credits the MA and CNA programs to a lot of that, but we saw great gains there. Another is post-test rates, so the benchmark is that 60% or more of those eligible students are post-tested, and we were at 62%. And then the last is data match, and so that's something that's tracked at the state and national level, and it looks at when students leave us, are they employed? And the state goal is 90% or greater. We were at 98%. So congratulations to Stephanie and our adult ed program.
So question, one of 8 in the state to meet all 4 performance targets. How many programs are there? Do you know roughly?
I think there's 69 or 70. Wow.
Wow.
Nice job.
Very nice.
Well done.
Great.
Exciting. So also, Gray New Gloucester Adult Education, they have received a Cumberland County Digital Equity Stipend of $5,000 from the Greater Portland Council of Governments. We are going to be using that $5,000 to purchase some digital translator devices, some quiet study carols for our HiSET students, doing some updates to computers and software. We're going to be hiring an instructor to do some more digital literacy so that we can offer free expanded digital literacy opportunities to the public. So you should see some of those activities coming up from Adult Ed. Great.
Fantastic.
And then our third is a huge thanks out to Bo Fairweather. He is one of our robotics team mentors. He works for the U.S. Naval Shipyard in Portsmouth and has the opportunity to request donations to projects that you think are important. Bo requested a donation of $1,000 for that program, and they approved it. So we received a one-time donation of $1,000 that has no requirements or restrictions other than we use it to help support the work of that robotics program.
Fantastic.
Fantastic.
All right, and now we would love to invite some students from the Dunn School to lead a presentation on making our schools more accessible.
All right, good evening. So we are excited to have Carter and Evan and Jerusha Jacoin here tonight. Jerusha is our speech pathologist and has worked with our students around accessibility and communication, and so they want to do a little demonstration for you. You guys ready?
You ready? Okay.
Okay.
Do you want to tell them what grade you guys are both in?
Hello, our names are Evan and Carter, and we are both in 4th grade. Yeah.
Right? And I have now been, this is my 3rd year in the district, but I've been working with Dunn School for even longer than that through pre-K, but I work with pre-K 3rd and 4th grade. A lot of the time when we think of accessibility, we think of physical accessibility, ramps, specialized playground equipment, but I have worked very hard in the school system to start with more communication accessibility. So our big move last year was to do what? What did we put on our playground? Do you want to hold one up really high? So these are the initial communication boards we put onto our playground. I designed them with the Lesson Picks company. There we go. And it has a lot of simple vocabulary that we need for our playground. It's specified to our playground, so there's things on it like our spinner and our tether ball that we love to have at Dunn School. Initially, they were just these small boards out on the playground. They had to have a wooden base, and I had to take them in and out, but we worked with Sebago Sign Works over the summer, and they were able to make us a large permanent one on our playground. My goal is to start pushing this out to more playgrounds, hopefully on our pre-K one soon, and perhaps even get them to all of our different playgrounds. So, Evan and Carter, we're going to show you simple ways to use it. And Evan, do you want to tell them what you can do with these out on the playground? Well, yeah. What? Oh, it's the dirty side. Thank you for reminding me. All right, so the cleaner looking side, they were on our playground for about 4 or 5 months, so they weren't looking the best. But so how is it organized? I guess we should start with that real quick. You forgot.
Carter knows it better.
Carter knows it better. Hey, Carter, what are the orange ones? You can say it louder.
Baseball.
Like, yep. So we have our playground equipment is all in our orange. Green, Evan? Actions. We have emergency words down here, our simple words that we like to do. We've got our feelings, so it's organized very similar to different devices that people use in our school. And then we also made it so that on literacy night, we had another version of it where we could take pieces off and make our own sentences, because I explained to all the students that you can't make a complete sentence with this, but you can get a good basic one. So you want to start pulling a few off? It doesn't have articles, the and it doesn't have verb tenses, but you can communicate really basic needs that you have on the playground with it. Who? So we were able to make it as part of literacy night. I also go to all the classrooms and present a slide deck about what I do in the school and different ways to communicate. So we talk about spoken language, written language, devices, ASL, and things like that. So the kids are getting to know what it is I do in my magical little room in the corner that everybody wants to come to, right? All right, so we're getting our sentence together. There we go. So this was a way to explain to them that it's not just pointing, but we can also make full sentences to talk to our friends on the playground and get them involved. So Carter, you want to tell everybody what it is?
Playground.
Playground, and then
Help. Let's play ball.
throw,
Throw. A ball.
ball. Very good. So it's not just for kids who have communication difficulties, it's also exposure to it. And Evan, what did we talk about the other thing that people have been doing? It's a microphone.
Oh, if they can't speak English.
We can use it for communication if kids are learning the English language, which we have had in the past. So that is our information. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, and I forgot to mention, what do you guys like to do together? That was the other thing you guys wanted to mention.
Baseball.
Loud voice.
Baseball.
They play on the baseball challengers team together. Evan and Carter are teammates. And best buds.
All right, questions for the young gentleman?
I think it's fantastic.
That's a good idea. A question, not so much for them, but what do you need to push this to the other schools?
We will probably need more funding, obviously, to get them into the schools, and I have to work with the other SLPs to get them designed specifically to the schools. So we have 2 other elementary speech language pathologists at Russell and Memorial that I'd be working with to do that.
But it's just the signage.
Just the sign. We're also doing it within our school this year too, and putting up more icons within the school to support that all throughout our entire Dunn school, right?
Yeah.
They can see themselves.
Yeah.
How do you see yourself?
Oh, they didn't notice until now, right?
So what kind of other areas might it be useful to have these in? Can you think of any?
Oh, there's something that I've done this year. Do you remember when you go? Yeah. In the morning. Okay. They're both very over. I've done a visual lunch schedule for our emerging readers, so they see both of the lunch choices, and also for all of the different motor areas we have in our school, and then our hallway standard operating procedures. So all of our SOPs will be getting icons throughout the year.
Great. Any other questions?
Follow up. So your thought is to standardize all of these different places where you need better communication in the same format, and you've introduced it through the playgrounds, which is a great way to get them excited about it.
Yes, and the color categories are very common in different devices that you might see. So communication devices use those color categories, so that also carries it over. And I sometimes will use it with some of my students who are working on things like knowing verbs and nouns and question words, so we can use it as a literacy-based activity as well.
So regardless of where it pops up around the school, it's a very familiar format and information system that they're already used to.
Yep.
That's great. This is really great.
Technology question. Does it work on like the iPad, or when you say devices, are there specific like communication devices that are separate from that?
Some have dedicated communication devices. Most of our students who have communication devices, they are iPad-based and they're app-based, so they are set up very similarly. The pictures may not be exactly the same, but they're close enough that we do see the carryover between the icons they see out on the playground and what they put on their device.
That's great. Very cool.
Thank you so much for all your work on this.
Thank you.
I'd like to take a second while Jerusha's here just to brag about her for a second, because she has been really a great advocate for our SLPs. She is the reason we hosted speech language pathologists here for the Greater Sebago Education Alliance. in October. She has been a huge advocate, and she reached out to me and said, hey, she didn't just say, hey, we should have this thing. She said, we should have this thing, and I have some ideas. And she's been really helpful connecting us with people. And in addition to doing a great job, which she does every day, she's been a great advocate for her peers in our district and regionally. And it was one of the most popular groups. We had a big group this year. So,
Thank you.
and she's been great already, helping me with what next year's going to look like.
Awesome, great.
Wonderful.
Thanks so much, and thank you, Carter and Evan, for coming in tonight.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Do you want to speak into the microphone?
Do you want to say bye?
No.
No, more being shy.
Just one other thing. If people don't know what the Challengers baseball program is, it's very similar to the unified basketball and the unified bocce that we have. The Little League sponsors the Challenger, and they're working to get it into our middle school where we have baseball as well. So
Fantastic.
hopefully we'll have some sort of unified baseball in the near future.
Great. All right, well, it's all downhill from here in terms of the agenda, guys, but thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks, y'all.
Okay, into old business. I would hear a motion on the use of Maine School Superintendent Association.
I move to approve the use of the Maine School Superintendent Association for the superintendent search.
Second.
Okay, so everyone should have seen the detailed proposal on this by now. There's also a version of it in tonight's meeting folder detailing what the Maine School Management Association can offer in terms of superintendent search. Do folks have any questions or comments on using this service?
It sounds like a good, I think we should utilize it.
And that is any issues.
All right, great. All in favor? Opposed? Perfect. So I have sent an email to our contact there, letting them know that this was on the agenda tonight, and I'll be back in touch with her on next steps. I do believe she's traveling at a conference in the moment, so hopefully I'll hear with her in the next few days, or I'll reach out to an alternative contact. So stay tuned on that. All right, next, somewhat related, we did vote in Dr. Turner, AKA Chanda, at our additional November meeting we had. We did want to take some time out during our official December business meeting to recognize the work she's going to be doing for us as interim superintendent, and we typically have the hiring admin come in and do a little brag on that person. So Chanda does not have that person here, so we're going to do it for her. I did send out her detailed resume. Maggie is going to add, there's a great abbreviated background on Dr. Turner that we've added to tonight's folder if anyone wants to take a look at it. And I'm going to read you some highlights from that. Chanda is a local Raymond kid, self-defined, and grew up in the area. From there, she has an associate's in business administration. She has a bachelor's in community health education. She has a master's of education in curriculum and instruction, and a doctorate in mind, brain, and teaching, most recently achieved from Johns Hopkins University. So she's very well educated. Along with all that, Maine Department of Education certifications that Dr. Turner holds includes Superintendent of Schools certification, Assistant Superintendent, Assistant Building Administrator, Curriculum Coordinator, and Health Teacher K through 12 certifications. She has several honors. Some of them include the 2024 Johns Hopkins University Memorial Award for education doctorate.
It's the name, Ed J. Pajak, yeah.
Memorial Award, alum who demonstrate visionary leadership through application of educational theory and research to serve communities, families, and youth. A 2016 Partner in Equality Award from Equality Maine, and in 2012, Ruth S. Shaper Award from Maine Public Health Association. her abbreviated work history, Dr. Turner's spent more than 20 years working directly for public schools or with nonprofits, providing direct support to teachers and students, ranging from a day treatment ed tech and a behavior program at Wyndham Primary School, health and safety training for the American Red Cross, human growth and development instructional coach across Cumberland, New York, and Saginaw counties. Previous to coming here, actually, I did not know this, was a grant consultant for MSAD 15 for 2 years and secured over $2 million in grants for our district. She went on to be the school health coordinator for Portland Public Schools, director of family and community engagement for Portland Public Schools, and most recently, 8 years here with us as the director of curriculum and staff development. She's also a wife, daughter, daughter-in-law, granddaughter, niece, and great-granddaughter of teachers, so comes from a family of educators, the vice president of the Wyndham High School Performing Arts Boosters, a lifelong Girl Scout, a blueberry farmer, and a very personal G&G connection I found quite moving is Chanda's oldest daughter is named after her childhood best friend, a Granite Gloucester student who we lost in 1994. Her picture is still displayed in the trophy case on several school awards made in her memory here at G&G. So,
And when you see fingerprints on the trophy case, it's because I say hello to her when I walk through every day.
so we are obviously excited and very lucky to have you as our interim superintendent.
Thank you. Welcome. Appreciate it. I'm really happy to be here.
I will also say that Dr. Turner has hit the ground running in the past 2 weeks since this abrupt transition and has been really fantastic. So thank you for stepping in. All right, moving on to the meat of you taking this position. Do you want to lead us in a discussion around deliverables for the remainder of the school year?
Sure. So not so very long ago, like maybe at our last meeting, we went over the strategic plan deliverables for the 24-25 school year, and we were very excited about everything we might accomplish. With that said, we have a huge transition that has just happened, and we have fewer people to get the stuff done. So we have, Patty and I have been in talks as well as with, personnel committee and finance committee, and we've got some thoughts about how we might, address that capacity. But realistically, being new in the role myself and then potentially bringing on some capacity in the curriculum department, it is not likely that the full list of things we hope to accomplish during this school year are going to be the things that we accomplish. So we were thinking it would be a good opportunity to have a conversation with the board about what is most important to you. We sort of have some thoughts as admin about it, but we wanted to sort of get the perspective of the board about what are those things that if nothing else happens this year you'd really like to see. And then we can give you an update soon on what we think is reasonable and feasible. And I think we did include or link that deliverables document in the agenda, correct? Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so we put the strategic plan deliverables back in the folder for tonight as a sort of reference point and to kick off this conversation. I don't know that we've captured it in a well-organized way, but we also more recently had talked about superintendent goals and communication. I think that was a really big one that we had talked about, communication with the community, internally, externally, vehicles, as something that we wanted to keep as a major priority.
I would second that. But, I think the priorities looking at the deliverables are, continuing to streamline the curriculum to manage the transitions, right? Every time we see, issues, for lack of a better word, whether it's test scores or it's behavior or whatever, it tends to be, especially since the pandemic, which exacerbated them, at those transition points. Kids coming in to Dunn, kids coming into the middle school, kids coming into the high school. It's been, kids struggle with transitions. It's not like we're the only ones that do that, but things like the 8th and 9th grade teachers meeting on a regular basis to streamline that. Things like the advisory program continuing to, have a standard curriculum across all 8 of those grades. Anything we can do, it's just the same story and over again. That freshman year, that 5th grade year seems to be where kids struggle. I think we've made a ton of progress there, and I would hate to see that. I think some of the other new stuff that we have on the list could maybe wait, but I would hate to see us fall back there, because I think we've made a ton of progress. We've heard from the advisory how successful that's been. I've heard my own kids talk about how advisory has been helpful. I just think when I look at the deliverables, all of those transition issues, I would really like us to just keep a focus on that if we could.
All right, actually, it's been a while since we've done it this way. Thanks for kicking us off, Sam, but I think I'd love to just do a go-around so we can go in either direction. Sharon or...
What?
Do you mean I'm just saying which way from Sam are we gonna go, but neither of you's jumped in.
I'm sorry, you mentioned Sharon, I was thinking about it. I don't have a specific thing as much as a general thing. I just think that, and it's what, you and I talked about this a little bit, just the idea of making sure that systems are shored up and administrators are happy, and the work of the school is going forward, that we're not just treading water while we're in this interim situation. I think there's an awful lot in the strategic plan that can be held off for a little bit. I mean, as a plan, it's a multi-year plan. It's not something that can't be stalled for a couple of months, although there are some exceptions, like Sam said, things around existing programming that's important, I think, need to be maintained. But I think, for me, it's just to make sure that the water's calm for the administrators we have, the students that are in the system, the programs we've already got going forward, that we don't lose anything in this transition. That's my major concern.
Okay. Thank you. Cole?
My thoughts are kind of along the same lines. I think there's a lot of good things on here that can be addressed, but again, I don't know if obviously right now is the best time for some of these. I think, just a couple of them stand out to me, like the fleet department. That bus thing, we've been talking about, that needs to get, I mean, we can't keep prolonging that, because I think we're basically hanging on by a thread as it is, so that definitely needs to be solidified somehow. Another big thing that, I know that's been brought up recently, the SRO program, I believe, is an important piece that needs to get looked at as well. I think we're also kind of in a bit of a transition period with that as well. But again, that needs to be visited probably sooner rather than later. That's kind of my general thought right now.
Thanks.
I'll echo the same sentiment as the others, but also with just an emphasis on the communication with the community, especially going into budget season, that making sure our community understands the value of the school system.
I would echo that and explore efficiency on communication. Like today, I had a few people, they were like, I didn't even know there was 3 types of snow days. So like that's, as we're in a transition period and the community is onlooking, the more communication we can get out there, that would probably ease the minds and maybe some heartache on the incoming messages. Just the ability to communicate also what we are doing, and bragging about our school system is always,
I don't have anything fresh to add.
Whoops,
All
sorry.
comments around my colleagues here.
All right.
Well, Part of the communication, I think, is the upcoming budget season. I think that the information hasn't been shared with the public as much as it could be. In other words, they're getting information on the last day to vote, basically. And there should be more sharing of that information through the normal channels that we use now. And that I'd like to see a goal of really concentrating on some, not to have so much excess in the budget for, in the guise of emergencies, but to have what we really need in the budget, so the public has more confidence in what we're giving them and asking them to raise for taxes. And, I think that's probably the most important thing right now, is because after coming off this bond and realizing that the public is very concerned about spending in this district, I think that, we need to be cognizant of that and try to, have them work along with us as we're progressing. Make more of an effort, I guess.
I'm glad that Fran brought up the bond, because that's one of my top priorities for this year, is to make sure we don't lose any momentum. That bond, even though we lost it in the vote, there's a lot of areas that bond assessed as emergencies and necessities that the school really needs, that our students really need to have done. And so how do we make some of those things happen for our kids? They're going to make things more safe, schools more usable, friendly, the cafeteria, the gym being safe, addressing those issues that didn't get brought up because the bond did not pass. How do we move some of those things forward that we frankly need? There are necessities. I don't want to lose our 5 years of work. And in this next year, I really want to see that move forward. So
I've got nothing to add.
I don't either. I don't have anything to add.
Can I have one more? I'm sorry.
You sure can.
Just because, there is a document of actual deliverables. We have an actual strategic plan where there's actual things that we've said we want to do. So among those, I would like to put just a little more focus on the air quality grant. It's a massive project, and making sure that we are ready to hit construction, ground running, all the, details are hit. It's a huge investment our community is making in our schools, and I just want to make sure that you have all the resources you need. Among all of those great pieces of education, I didn't see anything about construction. So, if you need a project manager, any resources, make sure you ask for them sooner than later, just to make sure that, we don't miss any opportunity there.
All right. Anyone want a second pass? Good. Is that helpful?
It is, it's very helpful. And so what I'll do is I'll come back to the administrative team with this feedback. I suspect actually many of them are watching right now. And we will maybe do a sort of track changes type thing for this and bring it back to you with this is what we're thinking. And then we'll just keep rolling. I think not losing momentum, well heard. And I think there isn't anyone on the admin team that hasn't been expressing exactly the same thing. And they've been fantastic. All of our staff have just been so great, and even our parents and families in reaching out and supporting to make sure that we keep moving. So I feel confident we're going to be able to do it.
Great. All right, so I expect we'll talk about that again in January. New business. Now we have a specific motion we'd like to hear on our indoor air quality project.
I move that the resolution entitled Resolution to Authorize an $8,914,073 Indoor Air Quality Project and Related Issuance of $2,391,628 in general obligation bonds be adopted in form presented to this meeting, and that an attested copy of said resolution be filed with the minutes of this meeting.
second.
All right, so this one, sorry, I was just looking for the full length of it in our folder. Any questions on this? So this is the resolution in its full detail that's in the folder packet will also go in our minutes. It will be signed and notarized by myself and Dr. Turner, and this just is the piece where we, we're moving forward with, the bonds to do the air quality.
There's also documents that need to be signed by the entire board. On this one.
There is, are we gonna do that now?
Just one.
Yes, okay.
Just one needs to be signed by all.
Okay, so, any questions on that?
Can you just, for the audience, break down the, where this, $10 million, because this is, explain why it's $10 million and we voted for the 6.5. Remember, we started off with the 10 million and then, we're getting 1/3 and 1/3. And, because it's still, I don't think clear with the public how this bond really did break down.
I'm not sure your question, so it's not
Okay.
it's not $10 million.
No, I'm not questioning the amount. Well, authorized 8, and we had related 2 million, so that comes up to over 10 million, right? That's what we started with originally.
No, the total project is the 8.9. The amount that we will, as
We're
a
responsible
result,
for.
be
See, I think that
bonding
needs to be explained.
is the 2.3. So,
It was already explained in all the material that went out and was voted on. All we're doing is voting to actually approve what the voters said yes to. So I'm not sure we need to do much more than that.
right, and it was broken out into the 3 parts on the ballot, so.
Yep.
Any other questions or on the authorization? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? All right, now is now a good time, Maggie, to sign?
You don't want to do the number 2?
That's normally used.
It's not, it's a different paper. So we're signing right now on this first motion. We don't sign any, you don't need to sign anything on the second one.
That's the one in the
All right.
Yes.
Why can I not find tonight's folder? And I think you're
I
specific.
signed, yeah, got it.
So the one we're authorizing signing right now will allow us to move forward with the bonding on the part that's ours. David is working with our selected, can you say the name first, David, who we're working with?
Moores and Cabot.
Moores and Cabot, who we've used in the past on our last, bond. And then this one,
Ready for the next one?
yep,
I move that the resolution entitled Resolution to Authorize $6,522,445 in School Revolving Renovation Fund Financing be approved in form presented to this meeting, and that the secretary file an attested copy of said resolution with the minutes of this meeting.
Second.
so this is the one that we will vote on, but only myself and Dr. Turner need to sign. That lets us move forward, closing on the revolving renovation fund financing of the 6.5 million, and we do have a closing date of December 13th, lined up for that. So any questions on this piece?
Have we gotten any interest, figures, estimated interest on the part that we have to pay on the portion? Do we have any idea of how it's been running since we started with this project?
So the interest on this portion is 0. This is the renovation, the revolving renovation is the part that is forgiven or the 0 interest. So if you're talking about the one we just did, we don't know that until we go through it.
We won't know that until the bonds are offered for sale, so we won't know that until later in 2025.
All right, so any further questions or points of clarity on the revolving renovation piece? All in favor? Any opposed? All right, so
Off we go.
off we go. So Chin and I will wrap up the paperwork on that next week, and then we'll do the closing. And then the next step will be moving forward with the contract with Mechanical Services to get going on the work. And now we have a batch of policies. Wondering, thinking out loud, might we take these, would it be appropriate to take them in a batch as Title IX
That's why they're all
policies?
listed
Great.
in a batch, yes. So it would be appropriate.
Well, do you want to make that motion?
I was planning on it.
Do you just do it nicely?
I don't know, it's all day long. But like, do you want to do the thing we were going to talk about doing? I move that we consider the slate of Title IX policies as detailed on the agenda before us.
Second.
Would you like me to speak to them?
Please.
So we have our Title IX coordinator in the house, Stephanie, if anybody has any specific hardcore questions. But the basic summary is that the federal government made some legal adjustments to Title IX that necessitated us specifically breaking a couple of our harassment policies and procedures in half, because there's a slightly different policy and procedure needed for things that are related to sexual discrimination versus other forms of discrimination, harassment. We got sample policies through the MSMA, which were vetted by Drummond and Woodsum, and in general, they are a little bit more streamlined. They are obviously legally compliant. Any changes that we would want to make, we would want to clear with a lawyer so that we do not find ourselves out of compliance. We did not do a lot of work on these policies. In policy, we just read them, made sure that we had all the commas and periods in the right place, that MSAD 15 was in the places where it needed to be. There were a couple of questions we needed to answer depending on whether our Title IX coordinator was the same person who was going to be doing our investigations, and it is, but in large part we didn't make a lot of decisions. It did take us a couple of meetings to work through them, and we figured rather than go through them one by one, we would do them all as a piece because they're all basically related.
Questions on any of those policies or this process as a whole?
I have just one question. Now, the impetus for this was change in, was it a federal?
Yeah, Title IX is a federal
Right, yeah.
regulation. And
Was it
they
an
made-
executive order or was it an act of Congress?
I don't know that I know the answer to that question. Do you know the answer to that question, Stephanie? I don't.
Because if it's an executive order, it could be very temporary.
Well, they didn't.
No, I think it, go ahead if you have something, Penny.
Thanks. They didn't change, so I don't think that what they said or how we handle things changed so much as it was that there was a separation of like sex discrimination and harassment from the broader harassment and discrimination.
Yeah, workplace harassment.
And so then
or-
it drove, now you need an individual, you need a policy and a procedure for this, and a policy and procedure for this. And I don't think it was substantially different in how we treat them, but it was like you have to you name it.
Yeah.
Is that, am I talking wildly out of,
No, there were,
come on down.
I'll maybe just editorialize while she's coming to the mic. So it's U.S. Department of Education regulations, and as you know, regulations can change, and they do. But something important to keep in mind is these regulations went into effect already. So we are expected to be doing this now. It could change in the future. It could change in 6 months. It could change in 5 years. We're not really sure at this point. What we know right now is we need to be in compliance with the law now. Sorry, did I steal your thunder?
nope, that's totally correct. Yeah, so some of the changes are in professional development that's provided, that every staff member needs to be provided with professional development on the new laws, or on any of the changes, that all staff members are reporters now. If they know anything, they need to try to seek mitigation and make sure that the appropriate people are aware that harassment or discrimination may be happening. They added the pregnancy information in there, that pregnancy and familial status is now covered under Title IX, so that if a student is pregnant, that they are actually able to have accommodations. It's not covered under 504, it's covered under Title IX. There were a few other minor changes, just beefing up that it's not legal to retaliate against somebody who participates in an investigation or who brings forth a complaint. So there were just some changes like that. They kind of streamlined, as they've said, they streamlined the procedure for the investigations and reporting, and basically that's what they did. Yeah.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'm glad you're available.
I saw this on there and thought I'd stay for a minute. Appreciate it. Anything else?
I'm fine.
For me?
I have a question on this, the employee discrimination harassment, ACAB-R.
Mm-hmm.
This whole thing has been updated, this policy, and it's 15 pages long. How in the world, as I go through this, it seems I'm reading duplicate messages throughout it. I mean,
Are you talking about
repetitive.
ACAB-R1 or ACAB-R2? Our website is not up to date yet because the board has not passed them.
I think she's looking at the packet.
One, I'm looking at one, according to the notes here. Well, maybe
Right.
not.
So
Well, no,
the,
so ACAB is the policy, harassment of employees, and then we have two procedures, R1 and R2. So the policy outlines our roles and responsibilities, and then each procedure outlines how we actually conduct an investigation should a complaint be lodged. And so ACAB was updated, actually pretty slightly. I think we just made like 2 little tiny changes based
Right.
on the regulations. And then the big change is that we split R into R1 and R2.
Okay.
Because the way we have to handle sexual discrimination claims is slightly different than the way we have to handle other
Affirmative action
discrimination
or
and
all other
harassment.
types.
All the other Title
Correct.
IX and,
Correct.
related
And then if you
complaints.
look at ACAB is with regard to employees, and ACAA is with students. So that's where you've got ACAA is students, ACAA R1 is all other forms of discrimination, and ACAA R2 is with regard to sex-based discrimination. And then we've got employees with the same, with ACAB. R1 is with regard to the affirmative action types of discrimination, and then R2 has to do with how you handle sex-based discrimination or harassment.
And AC is sort of the defining policy that they all sit under.
Right. And then I think it's JIE was added, that's a new policy
That's
that
for
has
the
never
pregnant
existed.
students, right.
And that's a new policy now.
In the work chart, or Venn diagram.
I have a question on that one.
Mhm.
I don't think I read where if the student, say is a senior and is aged out, I didn't see that addressed in here, I don't think, or maybe I missed it. So in other words, they're a senior, then, was it 18, and then
I think it's higher.
they can come back to school? Because there was accommodations and all that made for them while they're pregnant in
Yeah.
the policy.
Mhm.
But then, my question is, does that stop once they reach, the age of education or not?
So I believe that would fall under, traditionally, I think regardless of the circumstances, you have that 4 years to graduate with your cohort. But there are students who come back for a 5th year to complete if they need to. And I'm certain that would fall
Fall
within
under
that,
that.
because at 18, you don't age out of public school. Did that answer the question?
Yep. Mhm.
Anyone else? Good. All right, thank you so much. All in favor? Any opposed? Great. Let's pass those as a batch. Thank you so much. And next, I'd hear a motion to consider changes to our board bylaws.
So moved. Second.
So this, in the packet, on the bylaws, page 4, you'll see the red line on the proposed changes to essentially broaden the facilities committee scope to include the transportation and security needs of all of our buildings and facilities. Questions or comments on that?
Nope.
All right, great. All in favor? Any opposed? Perfect. And committee reports, facilities.
All right, so we met tonight, started with post-referendum next steps. We spoke about navigating the facility needs of the district that were maybe potentially gonna be handled by question 2, and where we go kind of from here. For capital projects, wrapping up, we've replaced a few more doors at Memorial and have one at Dunn to be installed. We're continuing to work our way around the buildings, just to make sure we're ready for winter. We do have salt on site, so we're ready for the snow. The fence at Russell School did get repaired with existing material, and we are piloting some new radio communications between the buses and the buildings. We've had limited testing so far at no cost. So far, the radio to radio base seems to be working well. The new devices don't seem to interact with the existing devices that we've been using. We have had better service in tougher areas like Egypt Road, and we're still working on it. For new business, going into the 25-26 budget, we're working on a capital improvements plan to get a number to the finance committee to help kick off budget. We ended talking about an update on a potential of a pump track on campus, an update on the sidewalk project. We are planning on doing a facilities tour to check out some of the outbuildings, like the bus garage, snack shack, technology building, and so on. That's what we have.
Questions for Adam? All right, thanks. Finance.
Finance met on November 13th. No, it didn't. That's upcoming. Yes, it is. November 13th. We had a discussion around the idea of some of the new legislation that's out there allowing drivers to spread it to 15 passenger vans or small buses. We had a discussion around the transportation communication system, which Adam has already talked about. Let's see, we had a conversation around next steps with some of the bond issues. There are items that came up in the bond research that still need to be addressed, that we can't ignore just because the bonds failed. Example, gym safety, sprinklers, et cetera. So we're gonna be looking at some of those, and a discussion about adding some of this work into the ventilation project timeline. If we're gonna do sprinklers, the time to do it would be while the ceiling's open. So there's further discussion gonna happen around that. We asked David Pascal to identify what's left with the FY 24-25 money that was budgeted to the bond referendum. If there's any funds of that left. We need to revisit that, at least do a postmortem on the spending around the bonds and the work we've done with the consultants and architectural firms, see if there's any of that money left. We had a quick discussion about potential land purchases around the proposed indoor sports facility and the pump track, and really didn't have much didn't come to any kind of decision or any it was just conversation. We pushed that back to facilities. We reviewed the October financial reports, and David told us about our audit update. Our auditor is running behind, so therefore we are going to be behind as far as receiving our audits, so we're going to probably need to file an extension beyond our 12/30 due date. The only other part was we're going to be pushing the budget discussion forward this year a little bit. We know it usually starts last or first of the year. We're going to be starting our budget discussions a little bit in December, try to get our feet under us since we have a lot of new faces, business manager, finance director, and interim superintendent. It seems like it's time to, if we can spread that process out a little bit and take advantage of the December meeting to get started, that would be a good thing. And that was what we discussed.
All right, questions for Gary?
On the sprinkler system, would that already be included in that bond money?
No.
No, that did not get approved, so if we're going to do it, we have to find other money for it. That came up under the idea of safety and issues with our buildings that now that we know whether or not we can continue to ignore. It's one thing not to do something about stuff that you don't know about or you just kind of live with, but it's something else once it's been identified as a real hazard. I'm of the opinion that you can't unring those bells. Now that we know that it's an issue, we need to at least acknowledge it and devise a plan. We may be grandfathered, we may not be required, but does required mean we don't need?
Yeah, my question was, are we grandfathered? Is this something that would be required if we were to expand, or?
Yes, that came up because if we expand our buildings, then we have to renovate the existing structure. We are not required by law to renovate the existing structure, but now that we know we have no sprinklers, and should we build that building today, we'd be required to have the sprinklers,
Okay, that was the other thing.
or add to it, can we again, my opinion, and that's why I brought it up at the meeting, is can we in good faith ignore it? My thought is, I'm not sure we can. If we had a fire tomorrow and we knew that we were unsprinkled and we'd be required to have it today, what would we think after that fire happened? It's just there for discussion. Again, there's no decisions made in finance, we just bring it forward.
All right, thanks, Gary. Personnel, do we have?
We didn't
That was
meet.
canceled, okay. Curriculum,
We did not meet.
all right, look at us. Policy,
We met twice, and we worked on all those policies we just approved.
great. All right, I have nothing tonight in the interest of time and weather, so superintendent report.
Okay, we have some new hires, and shout out to New Gloucester. 4 of our new staff are New Gloucester residents, so go New Gloucester. We have brought on Barbara LaValle, she goes by Billy, as a health assistant here in the district. She's coming to us most recently from the Children's Oral Health Program, so she's been in all of our schools for a lot of years. Our kids know her, our staff knows her, so we're very lucky to be bringing her on. She's gonna be primarily at Russell School and Dunn School, but as with our health staff, we kind of shuffle them where we need them. But so happy to have Billy coming on. Nicholas Hutchins, we have filled our second mechanic position. He comes to us with over 10 years of town mechanic experience, as well as numerous certifications in automotive, as well as fire and EMT. We are delighted to welcome back Brenda Emerson as our office support specialist at Central Office. Brenda was a secretary at the middle school. Some of you might remember her from there. We are very happy to be welcoming her home. She'll be primarily the receptionist, and then she was the support person for myself as director of curriculum, so she is very needed right now. We have 2 food service workers hired. Go Wendy, go David, we're very excited. That's Deb Richardson and Mallory Jones at the middle school and Memorial School. And then we have also hired a van driver. Bill Dunphy is again returning to SAD 15. He has had worked for us for the past and was willing to come back and be a van driver for us. So we're very, very thrilled to have made those hires.
Fantastic.
Resignations, Renee Tufts at the high school. Anytime you guys were in for a meeting, she probably saw her with a big smile on her face welcoming us, so we're very sad to see her departing, and we don't have any transfers. Second item on my report is the out-of-service bus disposal. We are required to give notification to the board when we are disposing of equipment, and as you all, I believe, know and have discussed at length over the years, there are 5 buses and 4 vans that are sitting on our property that are no longer in use and need to go someplace else. So we are working on disposing of those. We have 1 bus and 2 vans that we already have a taker for. They haven't quite come off our property yet, but we have someone who's going to take them. The remaining 4 buses and 2 vans, we are currently working to find a company that will just come and pick them up as is. We do have a couple of companies that if we do some work to them and bring them to them, they will take them, but we're kind of looking for someone who's going to pay us to take them just as is. So we're going to keep working on that, but before the year is out, the intention is to dispose of all of those vehicles.
Great.
And then my final report is about inclement weather planning. Best laid plans was to chat with all of you about that today and then send out notices to staff and families. Given tonight, I felt like I had to move a little faster. So just so that you sort of know what happened, you all received the communication. That information went out to staff on December 2nd. We sent that out to all families December 3rd. Our schools sent out then information to families specific to how this looks in their schools on the 3rd, and then they also sent some supporting documentation today. We've also worked to make sure that all of that documentation has been put on our website so people could access it there as well. We've also been providing kind of ongoing support to our students in the platforms they'll use if and when we have to use a remote day. For, in particular, grades 5 through 12, that's Google Classroom, and we use that as part of our structure in our classrooms anyway. Part of that reason is it's very seamless for them when they have to be remote. But in addition to that, in our younger grades, we do some work so that they understand what platforms will be used, how to use them, what to expect, and then particularly anytime we have weather coming up, like, for example, Today, our teachers spent time with kids saying, remember, this is how we do remote learning, just in case we need to know. And that will continue.
And now you get to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning
And
and make that call, Shanda.
I received a lovely text message from the Cumberland County Superintendent's Group welcoming me to the 4 a.m. club, so looking forward to that.
A question or point of clarity for those watching at home, including maybe my children. Because a teacher told them about the plan and instructed them to take their iPad home, does this mean that they don't have school
It's
the
a
next
great
day?
question. Because we are going to be calling remote days, something that kids and parents are going to experience is seeing those devices come home more often, particularly in our younger grades where they don't generally come home every day. Whenever there's a possibility, we will be sending them home. That does not mean that I have made any decision about tomorrow. I'm a big proponent of making the call ahead of time whenever we can. I think that's best for kids. I think it's best for staff. I think it's really best for families when you can plan ahead. In cases like the weather tonight, I'm sure I literally had Weather Channel going in my office all day. Poor central office staff were really frustrated. It's like 7s on the 7s every minute. In a case like this where they're talking about that rain snow line being the I-95 corridor, I mean, that's our district. So it's going to like really up to the last minute be the call in this particular case.
But kids can get used to, you will take your devices home, and sometimes you'll need them, and sometimes
And
you're not.
sometimes
This
you
is
won't.
not
But they're
a-
praying real hard.
This doesn't,
My 3 are like,
doesn't mean it. Any other questions or feedback about that? I did hear from a couple of parents who appreciated the communication, who thought it was really clear, and how it explained the different options and why it might not be perfect, but that's in the best interest of the district, so I heard some good feedback about that.
I have
Fran?
2 questions. Number 1 is, so that counts as a class day, it's not, what do you call it, snow day? I guess that's what it's still called, I think, right?
So,
Yeah,
yeah, so if we have a remote day where kids are doing their learning, instead of from our school buildings, they're doing it from their houses, it counts as one of our school days,
okay,
yes.
so how does it work if part of the town has power and the other part doesn't? How does that work?
So
For-
that's,
For the attendance?
so that's where if you look at the communication, there are 3 different ways we might call a day. One might be a delay, which is when we might need just a little extra time to make sure that schools are safe to get to. The second is a remote day, which we will use when it's not safe to travel to school, but there is power and internet in the vast majority of the district, of the 2 towns. There's the third option, which is sort of that traditional storm day cancellation. If we get up and we're looking at, in addition to looking at weather reports, I'm looking at power outages and internet outages across the 2 communities. If we have widespread power and internet outages, in addition to not being able to travel safely to school, then we would cancel school altogether.
So it'd be a call. So you don't have like part of the town going to school and the other part not?
Correct.
No,
Correct.
it'd be all. Okay, I was just curious.
If only there had been a written communication.
Anybody else? Cole?
I just want to add that I appreciate the early communication, and 2, I appreciate it was an email, and I opened the email, and it was there. I didn't have to click another link, it was just there.
That comes from a personal pet peeve I have as a parent, another school district, where if I have to make more than 3 clicks to get to the message, I'm probably not reading it.
Much appreciated.
Yes, it's very much
So
appreciated.
trying
I think I got
to
about
model
6
the behavior I want to see.
I think I got about 6 emails.
There's also a detailed follow-up from the principal of each school, if you have someone in the school. So some of the additional detail that I saw that you probably didn't see, Fran, too, is a principal saying, if you are in a pocket of no power, or your child has we can reach out and make a plan so that child can, have a plan for what to do at home on their own, or be an excused absence, so.
Okay.
We also, if you don't mind, I'm taking an opportunity to say again, we have opportunities to help families who struggle with internet access. We can help them access programs that will get the house internet. We also have some limited devices for families, so we really encourage families who are concerned about internet access in the event of remote days to reach out to their school so we can get them connected with those resources.
One more plug for those who might not be aware as well is that part of the nice part of planning ahead and maybe calling days remote ahead of time is that there is a system for families who rely on the school district for nutrition to get food sent home ahead of time. So we're able to get food in some of those kids' hands prior to inclement weather.
So for example, we sent meals home today with a lot of kids. If we don't use them tomorrow for a remote day, they are shelf stable, and so they can save them until we have a remote day in the future. But all that information is on our website, or reach out to your school and we can help families access food when we don't have school in person.
Great, thanks for that. And that is the end of our agenda.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
Done.